What's going on, new money? I just want to bring you guys a quicker video going over what I think is one of the most undervalued projects in all of crypto. It's called AlphaFi, and it's on the SUI blockchain. In this video, I'm going to be doing a quick history of the token, as well as showing you the market opportunity, a really short TLDR of the tokenomics and protocol overview. Then I'm going to actually show you the platform itself, and I'm going to end with an airdrop opportunity that exists every 100 days and how you guys can get involved. Of course, guys, none of this is financial advice. Please always do your own research. I'm just some dude in a hammock giving you their 2 cents on the market and this project. If you guys want to see a longer version of this video, check in the description down below. It's a complete overview. This is just a TLDR. So let's go ahead. I'll switch my screen and we'll get into it. All right, let's start out by getting some background on the Alpha token itself. It's only been out for about 6 months, or at least circulating for around 6 months. Had an all-time high of around $5.40, and it's currently sitting at around $1.10. That's how a lot of the market's gone, and that's how a lot of these smaller market cap cryptos go, especially. So, of course, guys, be careful whenever you're investing into anything like this. But in this video, I am going to go over why I think this is incredibly undervalued, especially sitting at around a $12 million market cap at the time of recording. To give you guys some comparisons for some other chains, Yearn Finance does some similar stuff to what AlphaFi does, and they're currently sitting at around $160 million. And there's a lot of other protocols as well, both on Ethereum and Solana, that are valued in the hundreds of millions of dollars for doing things that are similar to AlphaFi. And I actually think AlphaFi does them a little bit better. So I'm going to go ahead and get into what I mean by that and why. So if you click into their website, alphafi.xyz, you'll check out that they claim they are SUI's premier yield optimizer. And what that really means is that essentially they take our money, they take our liquidity that we deposit. We can choose what tokens we want to give them or what tokens we want to deposit. And then we choose what liquidity pool we want to put those tokens into. And then what AlphaFi is going to do and how they're able to advertise and actually achieve some of these pretty absurd yields is because they take our money and they put them into these different protocols and in the liquidity pools at a very optimum range. So without getting too deep into how liquidity pools work, there's a range that you can put your liquidity into for each pair or each token that you have. And depending on how wide or narrow that range is, you can typically tend to get more or less fees because your money is getting drawn from or used in those whenever there's trades and things like that going into. So instead of you having to manually pick and adjust the ranges that your money is sitting in these different liquidity pools, AlphaFi is going to automatically do that for you and put your money in a range that's going to generate the most fees for you or the most return on investment for you in those given liquidity pools. What they're also going to do is they're going to take the money that you are making or the tokens that you are making from the fees, and they're going to automatically put that back into the pool for you, sometimes as frequently as every 20 minutes, which is pretty crazy. It was Warren Buffett himself that said compounding interest is the eighth wonder of the world, and there's a good reason for it. It's a very powerful tool. So the fact that AlphaFi not only manages your liquidity within ranges that are optimum to generate more fees, but they're also auto compounding the money that you're making many times over every single day, so you can be earning more yields on top of what you're already earning right now. So it's a very powerful piece of technology. And if you wanted to take a look at the platform a little bit more, I do recommend, guys, just coming here, clicking around. It's a very simple, very friendly user interface. And you can see you don't even have to necessarily deposit into true liquidity pools or have two tokens. There are even single-sided liquidity pools and still earn some pretty impressive yields, given that these are just stable coins a lot of the time. So very impressive here. You can actually sort by APY. And I guess something that's important to highlight here is they'll advertise or they'll show you this insane yields, but you're almost never going to get that, or every single time you pretty much refresh this page, this number here is going to change. What they're really doing here is they're telling you that this is the amount of APY that has been generated over the last 24 hours. And then if you extrapolate that percent over the next year, then that is what you would get for a yield. So I'm going to go ahead and click in here. Actually, let me click into one that I have some money into so you guys can see what I'm saying. So you can see actually on the daily, and for each of these, you can click in and see on the daily, I'm earning about 0.6% over the last 24 hours. This is the rate that I've got. If you multiply this daily rate out times 365 days, then you'll get this average APY. And they show you exactly what the breakdown is very simply for you. They can show you that most of, in this liquidity pool anyways, most of the reward is coming from the actual bluefin or the actual liquidity pool itself and earning fees. And there's some money coming as well from the Alpha protocol themselves rewarding me in their Alpha token. So that is the breakdown and how you get those pretty insane returns. You can see the liquidity pool breakdown here, as well as they tell you their strategy. How about that? They tell you the magic sauce, essentially. What AlphaFi does is they only take from the actual money that you earn from the fees. So of all the money that you earn in general, they will take 20% of the profits, whereas some of the other protocols I know about, like Crya or Kai, they'll either take a total percent of all the money that you deposit, or they have their own slightly different fee structure. So this is just the platform that I like to use because it is relatively simple to use. That 20% platform performance fee can be a little bit extreme, but I think for you, you ultimately have to weigh your knowledge and how long you plan on staking certain things for to weigh out which protocol is going to be best for you. So that is really just a quick little overview about the protocol itself. Before I move on to the tokenomics, the airdrop opportunity that exists for this token every 100 days, as well as some other things that I think really differentiate AlphaFi from some of its competition, I do just want to highlight or bring mention to some of the risks involved. Of course, whenever you're giving your money to anybody, let alone a brand new smart contract platform on a new crypto that hasn't been as battle tested as some of the other ones, there are going to be some risks involved. So some of the ones that AlphaFi themselves highlights here is that there are smart contract risks, meaning that people are trying to actually exploit the smart contracts themselves, try and take advantage of some vulnerabilities. There are market risks referring to permanent or impermanent loss, which can occur if you guys don't know maybe necessarily what you're doing or just getting started in liquidity pools. This is a risk to watch out for. There are regulatory risks, of course, depending on where you're living in the world. There are operational risks as well, and underlying asset risks, of course, depending on which cryptos you guys are involved in. There are different risks involved with each of them. So something else I also want to highlight as a just unknown, I don't know if it's a risk, but just something to be mindful of, is that myself personally, I've been having troubles finding out much about the founders in general. You know, of course, I didn't want to log into my LinkedIn. I didn't feel like fishing out my old past or anything like that. But really, this is the only thing that I could find on any of the founders. I did find some people on X with AlphaFi in their bio, but they didn't claim to be co-founders or anything. They didn't have, a few thousand followers or anything. So just very unusual. So if you guys can find anything about the founders, please let me know in the comments. I would love to do an updated video on AlphaFi and highlight them a little bit more. But let's go ahead with this boring stuff out of the way, disclaimer out of the way. Let's go ahead and get into the tokenomics. All right, here we're on their tokenomics tab of their official documents. And I have to say, again, they just do such an amazing job of making things so easy and clean to understand. Just look at how well this is laid out. Anyways, I'm going to be reading over the parts of this that I think are important, particularly that the max supply of the token is only 10 million alpha tokens max. And something else that I think is absolutely massive to highlight is that 90% of those tokens are going to be in the circulating supply by the end of the first year. So the first year is going to have about 90% of the tokens getting released, and then the last 2 years is going to have the last 10% of the tokens getting released into circulation. And then after that, that's it. And then the money for airdrops and things like that are just coming from their fees, which we're going to get into in a little bit. So again, max supply of 10 million. Here's a breakdown of where the actual tokens are getting. About 60% to the community. That includes liquidity and mining and airdrops. About 10% is going to the devs and marketing, which was unlocked at the token generation event. The team got about 25%. We're going to take a look at their vesting schedule. It unlocks at a 300-day cliff, and then about 5% was reserved for the liquidity amongst the different exchanges. If you guys want to pause your screen, check out any of these different graphs, anything like that, I highly recommend it. Again, they did just a really great job of making this so simple to understand. The TLDR, according to them, is 1.5 million alpha tokens are minted at the token generation event for liquidity and operations. 42,500 alpha tokens are minted every day for the first 100 days. And then after that, alpha halves every 100 days. 75% of the tokens minted are spent towards the protocol, which is pretty cool. Here you can see a nice friendly breakdown of all that. They also would like to highlight in terms of vesting that about 57.5% in the first 100 days is getting released, and then it's going to have about every 100 days. So the emissions rate will end, and the last emission will be on the 1000th day, which is pretty crazy. Here you can see the unlock schedule. I believe it's actually coming up pretty soon for the founders in terms of their cliff here. So look alive. The price could dump. It could stay the same. You never know with these unlocks what can happen. And then here's some utilities that I think are important to highlight, and then I'll actually go ahead because these roll into the airdrop. So some of the token utilities that they actually list for holding alpha is that it's a reward token. It's going to be given for liquidity providers. It's also a governance token, which you can actually vote in things right now. There are also periodic airdrops associated with the token. So depending on how many tokens and for how long you stake them on their platform, they're going to be rewarding you with a larger airdrop every 100 days. That's crazy. And then they have a part of the performance fee is actually going to the people who are holding the token and who are staking it. Here you can see the 20% performance fee is charged for the auto compounding, and 75% is used to buy the alpha tokens and add to liquidity pools, as well as other things that strengthen the protocol. Here is a little bit of a cleaner breakdown for what that actually means. So of the fees that get generated of the platform, the 20% performance fee, here is where that money is going, 100% of it. So 50% of it goes towards buying the alpha tokens and then sending them to the airdrop reserves. 5% is going to the AlphaSUI tokens to deepen their liquidity. 20% goes towards Bitcoin and USDC as a financial reserve, and then 25% is allocated for the team development. Here you could see some other benefits. Again, this video could be really long. There's a lot that this platform does, so I'm not going to read all this stuff, but they essentially talk about auto compounding your money already in the vault whenever you stake it. And then they also have their own liquid staking token called STSUI. I'm not going to get into the whole thing. If you guys want to pause your screen and read over this, you can. I'm just going to scroll for you. But it essentially is just another way for them to separate themselves from the rest of the pack. They have their own breakdown for this liquid staking token and their plan for keeping it stable and all of this stuff. This is something that can either be really beneficial to the platform long term, or it can also add additional vulnerabilities in my mind. Just saying, I don't really know how this stuff works, but typically they're made to make the platforms more stable. But the liquid staking tokens I know can also be an area of stress sometimes for the ecosystems as well. So I'm going to do an updated video on this in the future. Not going to go into it too much, but the tokenomics do lead very nicely, as well as STSUI, and the tokenomics lead very nicely into the actual alpha airdrop. So like I said, if you want to earn the most possible on the alpha airdrops themselves, actually receiving alpha tokens, you're going to want to take the alpha tokens that you're earning from various airdrops and then staking them back in the platform. The more tokens you have, the longer you're staked, the more they are going to be rewarding you with more alpha tokens in the future. So that's just something to keep in mind. Here they say it's an incentive mechanism, and here's how it works. The revenue allocation, 50% of all protocol fees, as we just discussed, are used to purchase alpha, which is then deposited into the airdrop reserves, which I'll show you guys are right here. So here are the airdrop benefits that they are referring to, and this amount is going to get split between everybody that is staking on their platform every 100 days. That is just crazy, honestly. They also say that they have staking benefits. Alpha holders who stake their tokens in the alpha auto compounding vault become eligible for regular airdrops. That's what I just discussed. The size of these airdrops for each user is directly proportional to the amount of alpha staked and also how long it's staked. And here's the eligibility requirements. If you want to qualify for the airdrops, as I said, you must take active participation in the alpha vault. The more alpha you stake and longer, the greater your rewards. And they talk about having transparency and accessibility. So this is how every 100 days you can actually earn money, is by staking into their protocol. You can see it's a pretty crazy amount of tokens getting airdropped this 100 days. So looking forward to that. I get a small amount, but it's something nonetheless. I'm grateful nonetheless. Also, wow, been earning 2,800% over the last 24 hours on my 40 bones. So that is pretty sweet. Guys, that's been everything for me in this video. I can't help but make these videos go on longer than I intend. There's just so much that this platform does. There's just so much to learn. I could make it even longer, but if you guys appreciate this content, it did take me a lot of time to do. I'm not much of an editor or anything like that, so I've had to learn a lot by making this. So if you guys could please drop some comments, like this video, subscribe for more, I would really appreciate it. It lets me know that you want to see more sweet content. In the meantime, guys, we all know that there's smart money, there's dumb money, there's old money, and years from now, they're going to be calling you new money. Until then, I'm going to catch you in a video soon. Much love. Peace.